First things first, the news of the day is picking up Drake London's fifth-year option. Just your thoughts on the organization being
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Drake is an unbelievable player. He's a big part of this organization, big part of the offense. What he was able to accomplish last year and the first year of me being around him was unbelievable. Obviously, the pass game and a lot of stuff went through him, and some of the stuff with the run game goes through him as well. So can't say enough good things about Drake, the person, who he is in the building every single day with his teammates, with his coaches, and then obviously you guys see the player every single day. From a competitor standpoint, it's exactly what we all want to stand for in terms of the style of football we're trying to play, offense, defense, special teams. Can't say enough good things about him. He is a total stud and got a ton of good football in front of him.
This has been a relatively quiet offseason for you after last year it being probably noticeably not so quiet. I'm curious kind of what has been the behind-the-scenes work of this offensive staff over the last few months.
Yeah, it's been good. Obviously last year at this time, you're installing an entire new system to the guys, new schemes. There's just so many things that are going on, and it was obviously a big overhaul from, the previous regime and the things that these guys were used to. We had a lot of new players, so things move fast, and so it was good to kind of take a step back. Obviously, you're first and foremost, you're watching yourselves. How can we be better? What's the way that we can evolve? I mean, if you're not evolving in the NFL, you're going to get stuck behind. Defensive coaches are too good. Defensive players, watch a ton of tape on you. So that was the first and foremost is just, hey, let's study ourselves. What are the things that we did well last year that we can keep doing? And then knowing, obviously, with our quarterback situation with Mike now opens up a different avenue, within the offense. So it was going back even to watch some of Mike's stuff at Washington and watch some of the things that we knew what we liked about him coming out, and then just kind of getting some refreshers on. Obviously, he played the 3 games, but hey, here's some other things that we can try to get to now that he's pulling the trigger. And then you watch, around the league, you watch college football when you're scouting guys, and you start picking up things, and you're like, okay, this could possibly fit for us. So there's a big culmination that goes into it. You watch so much film in the off season because it's the first time we're in our office by ourselves, whether you're watching, college prospects or, like I said, around the league studies. So you're always trying to keep up with the trends. Some of the stuff you saw maybe last year during the season and you didn't want to quite get to it because you didn't want to introduce something new to the players on a game week, on a short week. But now, obviously, the plan's all together going forward. Doesn't mean that it's done. There's multiple plays we had last year that we didn't even run until training camp, or we didn't even run until the 3rd week of the season. It becomes a staple concept that you have. So long-winded answer, but it was a lot of fun just watching a bunch of tape of ourselves, our players, having a better understanding of what our guys do, seeing it up close and personal for a year now, and then obviously the evolving is something we'll always try to stay ahead of, because if you're not, like I said, you'll get left behind.
How involved does it change having Kirk Cousins actually be here for the off-season workouts? And does it, make it a little bit harder when you're trying to see Penix step up? Like, how does that work?
It's very similar to last year when Mike took over. Mike took over and he took the reins, and Kirk did a great job supporting him. Definitely feel the same thing with Kirk being around now. He knows, hey, Mike's the guy. Kirk's here as the backup, and expect him to support him just like he did last season and all throughout the offseason and into the season.
How do you navigate that process? Is it weird almost that, because Kirk said he wants to play somewhere else, but, he's still...
Yeah, I mean, we coach the guys that are here, and Kirk's, on the team, and we're going to coach him like every other player that we have. Certainly understand if, the things that have been out there, but Kirk's been great in the building the times he's been here. So you guys know Kirk as a person. He's not divisive and those things. So would anticipate, when he's here, he'll be the best teammate for the guys. He'll be the best for the coaches, and he'll just try to improve as a player. What can we improve on from some of the things last year, knowing that he is still one snap away?
Was the draft a little bit different for you, knowing they were going to be so defensive focused? Like, kind of like, I know I need to be prepared, but I know they're going to go.
You still go through the process the same way. Like you're saying, we kind of had a vision that it was going to be a little bit more defense heavy, but you're still scouting these guys like, hey, what if this guy does fall and the value of it is too good to take a shot on? So we go through the same process. Our assistant coaches did an unbelievable job, knowing we probably weren't going to get many selections. But, hey, who are some of these guys we like later in the draft? Okay, we draft a tackle. Okay, who are some of these free agent guys out there? Our coaches and scouts did an unbelievable job just identifying those guys, knowing that, hey, we didn't get a 4th-round pick, we didn't get a 2nd-round pick, but there's still some guys that we're excited about in the free agency process and in the 7th round that, could help this football team this year. They got a long way to go, but you go through the process every single year the exact same, not knowing how the scenarios can fall.
You said anticipate, the word anticipate a little while ago. What do you anticipate from Mike this year in the offseason?
Yeah, I think just next level ownership of the offense, being in year 2. He got here as a rookie, and that rookie season is a complete whirlwind, especially when you got no break from your college football season into the All-Star Combine, all the workouts that come after that. So would just expect, that next level of ownership from him. The guys on the team love him. I mean, you guys see the style of play that he plays with, matches with our skill guys, and the skill guys love playing football with him. And so just looking for those guys to all kind of come together as a skill group, offensive line-wise, all those guys just continuing to build that continuity that they started to get towards the end of the season. But looking for nothing more than positive things from Mike. Obviously, we know the talent, we know the things he can do on the field, and then now it's just like, man, this is your team. Like, let's roll with this thing. And he's been great. He's been great since he's been here. Now you can definitely feel that kind of next level of him taking over.
Ike just called it athletic arrogance is what he sees from Mike. Do you
Yeah.
see the same thing?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he walks around with a swagger. I can still remember, when we went and worked him out at Washington, you walk on the field and you're like, all right, that's the guy. You can just see it, like I love that athletic arrogance. The guys that just walk around with that confidence, they exude it. You guys see Mike walking around the building. I mean, that's just the way he is. He's a cool guy, and his teammates follow him. So it's going to be exciting.
The rookie year carries specific challenges for any player, and especially a quarterback, but then going into year 2.
There's always going to be situations that you can't cover in practice, situations that are never going to be able to be mimicked until you get into real live game situations and real live bullets and all that stuff. So there's always a part of the maturation process at any time when you're a quarterback, whether you're in year 13 or year 2 or whatever it is. So just the more game experience that he gets, the more coverages he sees, the more defensive coordinators and schemes and all these things that he goes against. He's only going to continue to grow every single time he steps up there on the field, whether that's in practice or in games. So the learning process for a quarterback I don't think is ever done. Tom Brady did it into year 50 or however many years he played. He was still learning every single time he stepped out there on the field. So, it's just going to be another part of Mike's, maturation process in the quarterback game.
And what have you observed just from his leadership capabilities, especially since he's kind of taken over the role and then going into this offseason with some of these other receivers?
Absolutely. He's, everybody has their own leadership style, leadership qualities. He's going to be completely different from Kirk. He's a very genuine leader. He's not a guy that's going to be super out loud and outlandish and all that stuff. He leads a lot by example with how hard he works and how he carries himself around the building and on the field and all the extra work that he does. But he's never going to be a big rah-rah guy. It's just not his personality. And I think the most important thing you have to be as a leader is genuine, because guys can sniff it out in a heartbeat if you're not being genuine. So Mike's always going to be himself no matter what the situation is, good, bad, really good. He comes off the field some of those games last year. He could have just thrown an interception. He could have thrown a touchdown. You would have never known the difference because he is so level-headed, and that's one of the things we love about him.
How much does it help him and you that he's already had 4 games last year to play? You kind of already have some tape on him just going into this offseason and coming season.
Yeah, it's going to help a big time. It's not going to be we're going into week 1. It's his first ever start. There's not so many unknowns. There's obviously going to be some things that he hasn't done out there on the field and some situations that he hasn't been in. But to have that experience and have some stuff under your belt and then go into the offseason and be able to build off that with our offensive skill guys is going to be huge for him.
Where's a couple areas you'd like to see him grow this year?
It's just little things, just going through the offense. Obviously, some of the things that he did out there on the field was the first time ever, whether it was throwing to a certain guy, like throwing a comeback to Drake was the first time he's ever probably thrown that ball, whether it was practice or the game. There's going to be a ton of things that got some catching up to do with the guys that we have. Little footwork things, little accuracy things are always going to be part of the quarterback's just progressing. It's not a ton of stuff, but he's always going to have to be able to learn more situations, learn more situational football, when to do certain things, when not to do certain things. He's an aggressive player with an aggressive arm, but sometimes you got to be able to dial it back a little bit. He has great field vision. He has the ability to manipulate underneath defenders with his eyes, and sometimes he might not need to do that all the time, but it's one of his greatest assets. So we don't want to, overcoach or outcoach some of those things out of his system. So, it's just the process of learning a quarterback and learning how to coach him, and him learning the offense and rolling through those things.
Even if you weren't worried about him having some games or not, how much does it just help a quarterback being a second-year player versus coming in as a rookie?
The rookie year is such a whirlwind. Like, you're going straight from, with him, he's going all the way to the national championship, going straight into the pre-draft process, training, all that stuff, straight into rookie minicamp. Like, you never get a time to kind of like reset and breathe and kind of take a little breather and that first offseason, for a rookie is huge. Being able just to kind of look back and reevaluate and reassess what you did good, what you did bad, and obviously just take a little mental time off because this game can be a grind. But he was at the point where he just got a little bit of a taste to play, and he was almost chomping at the bit to keep going. So it's kind of a different situation for him, but he just used that as motivation to work during the offseason, and we're excited about him moving forward.
We know Kirk Cousins is a decent human being, but we also know that he also still wants to play and start.
Absolutely.
So how do you manage that dynamic when you know who the starter is and you have a guy kind of chomping at the bit to still play and maybe it's not here?
Absolutely. Everybody knows it's a tough situation. It's not what we all envisioned of how it would go timeline-wise, but it's just the business, unfortunately, and Kirk's been great throughout the entire process. When he was the backup going into those last couple of games, he was awesome. He was helpful. He was, in the meetings doing everything he could to prepare, not only just in case he had to go in, but helping Mike out in every way that he could. And he's continued to do that every step of the way. So, he's a pro's pro. He approaches it like that all the time, and everybody wants to play. Whether you're a backup quarterback, a backup center, a backup running back, whatever it is, all these guys, have the want and the need to get out there on the field and contribute, especially have much success as Kirk has had throughout his career. So I don't think that fire is ever not going to be there for him, but he's been great so far.
So he's been here during practice and things like that?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, during workouts.
A quick change from the quarterbacks. You used to be Drake London's position coach too. How exciting was today's news about the fifth-year option?
I'm so happy for him. I got to be up close and personal with Drake for those first 2 years of his career, being his position coach, and we grew a lot as a coach-player relationship, and seeing him not only grow as a football player but as a young man, just maturing in that standpoint and becoming one of the leaders on this team. Like, he deserves every single bit of it. He works so hard. He is such a great person off the field. Like, it's funny because his demeanor off the field is very different than his demeanor on the field. How he can just flip that switch on and off, and just learning how to battle with that, because sometimes he can get pretty juiced up. But he's a great dude. Comes from a great family. All the guys on the team love him. The coaches love him. We couldn't be happier for him.
Thinking back to rookie Drake, did you imagine this success path for him?
Yeah, I think so. When you pick a guy at that spot, and that's how, convicted we were when we went to go work him out. I talked about Michael earlier. Like, we went and worked out Drake, and we saw him in person and all that stuff. We were pretty convicted on this was our guy. And he's grown a lot, in a couple of years, and how much he means to this team, how much he does, obviously, in the pass game, but the run game, like, guy plays every snap, never comes out off the field. Just an absolute dog, and that's what we saw in him from the get-go.
How do you evaluate this group of wide receivers when free agency and the draft didn't really touch upon it?
Well, I think it's a credit to those guys. When we got together last year, we were building a room with, Drake as the only guy on the contract. So, we hit on free agency, and we like what we have. We also have some young guys that have worked their butts off and put themselves in position to, to make a push to make the roster next year. So we're excited to see what happens.
How do you think this group alone can help Michael Penix in his first full season?
Well, it's going to be a lot of time on task. That's going to be necessary for growth, and that's what this time of the year is about. So, we'll have to continue to address that and answer that question as we go. But at least we have 3 games under our belt. Now we set the bar. There's an expectation, and now the work begins.
We've gotten a small sample size of his relationship with his receivers. It's a very positive one.
Yes.
It feels like both of them are working together to make each other better. How much fun is it to watch Mike just take that on very early?
Well, it's awesome. The confidence, the athletic arrogance, as one said, that I love that Mike has. It's infectious. It goes throughout the building. Everybody's excited to get a full year with Mike, and look forward to see what's going to happen.
What about Darnell Mooney? We talk so much about Drake, but this is his second season in Atlanta. What do you expect out of him this year?
More. I think, probably shouldn't say this, but it's safe to say that, Moon reintroduced himself to the league a little bit last year, leading the league for a while, in explosive plays, and we need him to continue to, to be that part of the offense, be a guy that continues to win isolations, lead the young guys and show them the way as well. So we just need more.
How does his game and Drake's complement each other?
Well, we look at Mooney as obviously a yards per catch guy, a vertical threat, veteran presence that, can help, I think, with each guy in their role, considering he was a fifth-round draft pick and earned an opportunity to earn a second contract and, what it takes to be a pro. So we're going to lean on him a lot more than we did last year and see where that goes.
I know they're on the other side of the ball now. Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman, they both have history playing wide receiver. How beneficial is that when they do become a defensive back?
Well, it's cool, being able to see the game from the other side and understand, how one side is trying to attack the other. I think it brings a little bit more detail, more opportunities, in certain situations, and it helps when you can cross-learn that way.
Okay, first of all, as you look at Kyle Pitts, there's so much criticism about him and his game, but he has really come a long way from his first year in the league. Where do you see him maturing in his role throughout his process in the NFL?
Yeah, it's funny because his first year he was so productive, and he goes to the Pro Bowl and he has 1,000 yards receiving, and he's had adversity every season since then. So one of his biggest deals last year was we have a lot of good players on offense. You have Bijan, you have Tyler, you have Mooney, you have Drake, you have Ray who came on in the season. So you have all these people on offense that you have to get the ball to, and those guys need touches. So naturally last year, his touches went down a little bit, but for him, I'm hey, we create our own reality, so we have to look internally on what we need to do better, and that's going to warrant more touches for him. But at the end of the day, for him, he's had some adversity, and it's hey, how do you work through it? And now the fresh year, you reset, stay in the moment, and see what happens. But for him, it's hey, we show up every day, just take it one day at a time and see what happens. Let the chips fall where they may. So it's fun. I'm excited about it. He's excited about it. We're looking forward to the year.
Take the more touches aspect out of it. What do you want to see from him this year?
For him, I just want him to be more consistent. When we talked about it too, I'm hey, Kyle, you've put it on tape, and your mistake is that you have put it on tape. So you've shown that you can do it. Yeah. We just need you to do that more consistently for what we need to be, who we want to be, who you want to be, what you want to accomplish. We just need to put that on tape more consistently for the offense. So that's going to be our biggest focus moving forward. Just making sure we're consistent, and it starts in OTAs. It starts in phase one in the time that we're here now. Just being more consistent every single day, just stacking the days and see what the finished product is.
You got a room full of guys who are not afraid to put their shoulder down and get dirty.
No.
How much fun is that for you?
It's a lot of fun. We got some new guys in the room. With Nico coming from LA, you have Tegan coming from Houston, you have Felipe who was here, and then he leaves and he comes back. So our room got a lot tougher, which is good. That's what you want. The essence of football is about toughness. So you have a lot of guys that aren't afraid to put their face on people, and I'm excited to see what it looks like when we finally put the pads way down the road. We're just in the learning phase right now, but it's fun when you watch their tape from where they came from, and the way that they play football is the way that we want to play football here. So it was a natural match to have those guys on board to the team.
And now you have a guy that's giving them the football in Mike that is going to be very convicted because this is now his team. He's taking ownership of that. How much can that help your tight ends?
Yeah, it help a lot, especially too from with Kyle from the big play aspect. Mike, he's able to access all parts of the field. So no matter, we've been telling guys, no matter, hey, we're full progression, and no matter where you are in the progression, you're always alive. Not whether you're 20 yards down the field, 40 yards down the field, Mike can access those throws. So that bodes well for Kyle in terms of being able to create explosive plays for the offense, because that's what he does well. So I think it benefits everybody.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you look for out of him? I know that you could probably write a book about this, but what do you look for out of him, in training camp 2 and preseason 2 and year 2?
Just improve on everything, right? Even weaknesses and strengths, just improve on everything. And we've talked about it. We've had constant communication right after the season. We talked, and throughout the whole offseason, we've just been talking constantly and having good dialogue about what he needs to do to get better, what he needs to do to improve and take us to where we want to be.
I'm sure you've broken down every snap from the start to the end of last year. We look at it from the outside, we see the numbers, and that's pretty good. When you look at it at Michael's side, sample size of starting, what did you see?
I saw a lot of poise, right? I look at the intangibles, saw a lot of poise. He was in some tight games, and I think that was really good for him, right? Because he didn't really play in the preseason, right? He played 3 drives or something like that in the preseason in Miami, and then we shut him down. And so I think it was really good for him to be in those situations, and you saw his demeanor come to light. Like, he was never too high, he was never too low, and I really like that about him, and I think that's something that we can build on.
So now you're going to go into a season with a quarterback room that's kind of unconventionally set up, right? With Kirk in there, and as of right now as the backup, and Michael as the starter. How do you handle that as the guy running the room chemistry-wise?
I love it, man. They had great chemistry last year, so I don't see anything different, man. Kirk is a great teammate. Mike is a great teammate, and so I don't see anything changing from that dynamic. I think Kirk was really good with Mike when Mike started playing. Kirk was one of the ones that gave him a lot of intel, a lot of insight on things as he came to the sideline. And as you know, those guys, more than coaches, they trust players. You know what I mean? Players trust players. And when you can have a player of Kirk's caliber to talk to you when you come off the field, man, I thought that was great for Mike to have that.
Is there any worry about Mike looking over his shoulder at all, of having a guy who's done it in all the experience? Is there any worry about that?
No, I don't think so. Mike is a guy who he's poised and he's comfortable in his own skin, and so I don't worry about that. Obviously, at every position, you want depth, and so but I think guys understand that, and so I don't think it's a big deal.
As a coach, I'm sure you can turn to other coaches for ideas of how to run drills, draw plays, things like that. Who do you look to in a situation like this when it's, how do I handle this kind of situation, the management side, the personality side?
Yeah, sure. Well, I feel like I've had a pretty good go at it. Obviously, being who my dad is and growing up in this business, I've been around players all my life. You know what I mean? Our receiver coach, Ike, I used to sit next to him in meetings when I was 10, 12, 13 years old. So I understand the NFL player. But I reached out to guys, man. I have a nice network around the league of guys I trust. And I reached out to Sean McVay, and I have some great guys here in TJ and Zach who have obviously done it at a high level. And so I lean on those guys as well.
And last question, sorry, Jarvis asking a bunch of questions, is, Falcons fans looking at the quarterback room from the outside in, I think maybe have some of the same questions I have of how it's going to work. What would be your message to them about what it's going to be like for you guys inside the building in terms of that dynamic, that chemistry?
Yeah, man, look, we just take it one day at a time. I don't want to get too high or too low, man. I just tell those guys, let's take it one day at a time, right? We set our goal at the beginning, right? And then we just work backwards, you know what I mean? And so we're just going to take it one day at a time, man, and from drill to drill, from period to period, man, we just want to get better every single day. And that's all you can do, right? It's just live in the now, all right? The past is gone, and the future really isn't even a real thing, you know what I mean? So I tell those guys, man, let's just take it one day at a time and try to get better every day.
What are some of the things that you thought about? I'm gonna take you back to your Grambling State days.
Yeah.
Like coming out of HBCU. Was this your vision? This is what you envisioned coming out of college?
It's crazy, bro, because no, it wasn't my vision. I really didn't know what my vision was. I got hurt my senior year, and obviously I wanted to play, wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps, and that didn't work out for me. Got a shot, but it just didn't work out. And at that time, I think it was 2016, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to work in the league in some capacity because I knew this was my passion, but I really didn't know in what lane I wanted to go. And so I started in scouting with the Washington Commanders, and although I loved that because you were just around the game, man, I just felt a need to impact players a little bit more, and so that's where the itch for coaching came about. You know what I mean? And Sean Payton gave me an opportunity down in New Orleans, and then, man, I just started to hit it off from there.
So, I find that interesting, right? Because Aaron Glenn talked about he started as a scout, too.
Yeah.
So Is that something that you see yourself potentially? I mean, I know they might be down the road, but is that something like that path that you want to follow?
So it's funny, me and AG work together, man. That's one of my guys, man. And we would talk about it all the time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And he talked about how much he loved his scouting days as well, and how much it helps you to evaluate every single position. Because when you get to a position where he is, he has to evaluate every single position, right? So I think he has that background, and it's good because at the end of the day, like in the offseason, all you're trying to do is acquire talent. Sure. Like that's the main thing that you're trying to do, acquire talent and then get ready for the season. And I think AG had great practice at that, and hopefully I can follow in his footsteps one day.
What was the first thing you said to Michael Penix when you started working with him?
First thing, I don't even remember. I think we had some taco trucks outside, and I went and got a taco, and we just walked and went and got a taco. Yeah. And he ate one, and then he was like, "Bro, you want the other one?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." That was probably our first conversation, man. But no, Mike is good, man. That's my guy.
So you talk about your father influence, right?
Yeah.
So what is some of the things that you feel that he has given you just from a dad standpoint?
Yeah.
What you're doing right now?
Yeah, man. I was literally gonna say that, man. I think the things that it was never about football. It was never about sports. It was always about being a man. And I think, to be a good coach, you got to be a good man. And so he instilled a lot of things in me, respect, you know what I mean, being disciplined, and accountability, all those things, work ethic. I think all those things he instilled in me just as a man in general in the world. You know what I mean? I think that speaks volumes for any coach, right? That all that stuff translates, you know what I mean? And so I appreciate my dad for that, man. That's my best friend, so.
And as far as offense this year, obviously a lot of expectations coming in.
Yeah.
Putting the points on the board. Obviously I know y'all want to do that internally. So what is like a measuring stick for you all that you feel that you all have to reach in order to say, hey, we had some success in 2025?
We just got to get better every day, man. We just got to attack it. Obviously, we got to create some uncomfortable situations for those guys. So when they do get in the games, they feel comfortable with any situation. But I just think, man, we just attack it one day at a time, bro. Don't worry about the expectations, because that's, for everybody else to worry about. For us, we just got to worry about in-house and what we have in-house, and just worry about doing what we're supposed to do every single day. We come to work.
DJ, we got a small sample size of Mike working with his receivers, and it's very obvious that all the skill guys really love him. Mm-hmm. How much does that help?
Yeah. I mean, obviously everybody sees the talent, right? I mean, he has a big arm. That's the thing that jumps out on tape. And obviously everybody gets excited, right? I mean, shoot, we were excited when we got him last year. Because that's one of the things that you did see at Washington was he was able to touch all areas of the field with accuracy and pace, and I think that will continue here.
Are you kicking me out?
No, you're good.
Okay. I didn't know you were hovering, so I didn't know. Okay, and one of the things we were talking about in there, I called it athletic arrogance when it comes to Mike. How much do you see that from him?
Me and Ike talked about that, man. That's exactly what it is. It's funny because I joke with him all the time, bro, but you can't get him rattled, you know what I mean? And that's because he believes in what he's doing. He knows who he is, and he has unbelievable belief and confidence in who he is, and I love that about him.
He's already a naturally confident guy, but when you tell a quarterback, hey, this is your team, let's go do this together, how much does that accelerate where you want him to go?
Yeah, I think that just gives him ownership, you know what I mean? And with that, he'll become accountable for things, and I think that's great as well, and you will just see his leadership grow in all of those things, so I think that's a great thing to have.